what it is that Bob Norman himself actually is trying to express. This is another one from Bob Norman. All right, and the headline reads this, all right? It reads like this: could a shameful cover-up contribute to Broward Sheriff Scott Israel's ouster? And this was written in January 4th of 2019, so it's also not very old. All right, I do remember it right when it came out, and I've been kind of dwelling upon it, especially recently. It goes like this: when Richard Fusco took the call from his friend and neighbor Kevin Shults, as we mentioned earlier, Major Kevin Shults, he knew it might not be a pleasant conversation. Fusco, after all, had done what no one should ever do, and he had slept with his neighbor's wife. All right? But he had no idea how bad it was going to get. All right? So just before we dive into it, I don't encourage people to sleep with nobody's wives, and it is going to get bad, probably. So don't do that. And especially if they're not deputies, don't do that. So he had no idea how bad it was going to get. The call was just the beginning of a weeks-long Cape Fear-like torrent of threats and intimidation that would come from the 47-year-old Fusco's former friend in the rural Waxahachie neighborhood where they had resided over there in Florida. Shults, he called me on the phone. This is a quote. Called me on the phone and said he was going to destroy me and that I was going to have to look over my shoulder wherever I go. Fusco would later write of that first phone call and, quote, told me I was going to pay, that I'm going to find out what it's like to have nothing, right? I've heard a lot of threats in my day, but that's a rare one. It turns out that Mr. Kevin Shults, it seems, was threatening Fusco to have nothing. He was threatening to take away everything in the world from Fusco. And that's quite unsettling, and it's quite bizarre. Thing is, I gotta let you know that that's the very tip of the iceberg. We're about to dive into what's bizarre. All right, and like I said, sometimes the truth is much stranger than, sometimes you can't even make it up. It's one of these times. Okay, the next day came an unexpected visit to his home from Shults, whom Fusco knew was often armed. I mean, obviously. All right. So Shults pulled up in his truck with his wife in tow. Fusco wrote in court papers that Shults opened the gate, walked to his door, if you can imagine this, and pounded on it, yelling, quote, "Come on out, you pussy." Then Fusco's stepson, okay, so Fusco has a stepson, so Fusco's stepson pulled up to the house, was blocked from entering the gate by Shults' truck during this incident. At that point, Shults relented, telling the stepson to inform Fusco that he was looking for him before leaving. All right, so that sounds like a bad situation. The wife in tow and everything like that. Kind of knocking on the door, banging on the door, calling everybody a pussy. Telling the stepson, hey, this what's going on and stuff, and storming off, all right? Shults phoned Fusco the next day, this time asking to meet in a public place, all right? It's a great idea. Public place, for sure. Quote, I agreed, thinking that we could discuss matters and move on. Fusco wrote of his decision to take the meeting. Quote, he wanted to meet by soccer fields, but I was in fear of violence, which he should have been. He said, I was in fear of violence and or death from him. So I met him at Pascal's Italian restaurant. Look, y'all, that is definitely what, honestly, that is what Fusco should have done. All right, met him at a very public place, Italian restaurant, sit-down restaurant, family thing. People will notice a big fuss, all right? And that's important. It's real important to know. So when they sat down inside the large brick-walled pizza place in a busy, well-heeled Wellington strip mall, it became immediately clear to the 150-pound Fusco. Let's just stop right there in the mid-sentence. Fusco weighs 150 pounds, y'all. And just so that everybody knows, that's below average. All right, so as we continue, 150-pound Fusco, that Shults, who had 6 years and 60 pounds, which is more along the lines of average, about 200 pounds of stuff. Shults is about 200 pounds. Fusco is a little kind of guy, but it doesn't really matter because he's able to get the job done. Am I correct about that? Yeah, he was. All right, it didn't even matter. He's 150 pounds. He went in and he got the job done. Do I need to add more detail to that? No, we know exactly what it is I'm talking about. So okay, now we're in a situation, okay? Let's just reread the sentence. It became immediately clear to 150-pound Fusco that Shults, who had 6 years and 60 pounds on him, most of it muscle, had no intention of moving on. In what would be a disturbing parable, Shults began by telling him that when he was 8 years old, that his father had taken him into a field and shot a stallion in front of him. And that's what Shults is doing. He's telling a story during this whole confrontation about how his dad took him out when he was an 8 years old little boy, and then he shot a stallion in front of him. All right. He said he didn't understand the reason for the bloodshed until later. And can you imagine? Can you imagine that situation real briefly? A guy just walking out a stallion into a field and shooting it in the head in front of his 8-year-old son and not even explaining why he did it. I guess that's, according to the story, that's what happened. So he said he didn't understand the reason for the bloodshed until later, when he realized that the horse was no longer any good and needed to be put down. And so, people will hear about this sort of thing. Sometimes if a horsey, breaks a leg or something, sometimes got to shoot it. It's no good. It's not going to work. It's going to really hurt itself even more. And it's not good to watch. So I guess that's what happened. We're just left guessing. But the article does go on about it. He said he sat down, this is a quote, he sat down and told me that his dad shot a horse that they owned when he was young. And that he had to shoot it because it crossed the line. Now, that's a quote. I'm pretty sure that Fusco isn't making it up. I'm pretty sure the phrase crossed the line actually did occur up in that Italian restaurant. So he sat down and told me that his dad shot a horse that they owned when he was young and that he had to shoot it because it had crossed the line, Fusco wrote. He said that when my tires are flat, this is a quote, so when my tires are flat or my motorcycle gets messed up, to think of him. All right, and I want to stop right there. It goes on a little bit further. But it said that Shults told Fusco to think about a stallion who got shot by Shults' father when he was 8 years old. He said he wants him to think about this stallion that got shot when he finds his flat tires on his motorcycle. And it took me a while to completely absorb this, and it's probably taking you a little bit of time to really take in what's going on here. But it almost sounds as though Shults is describing Fusco as a stallion who crossed the line. That's what it sounds like, all right? He's describing 150-pound Fusco as a stallion who indeed crossed the line and who indeed got the job done, if you know what I'm saying. All right.
Boy, get a strawberry pop. I don't know. Go ask your mama. I recommend that you overcome your mother. You have your mother's mindset and emotions because when you were a kid and your father left, it was too much for you to handle her. And as you know, you become like whomever you are angry at. And so you are a passionate person. You need to forgive her. You need to forgive her because you have the mindset and nature of a woman. As a beta male, not an alpha male. Beta male, yes. Beta male. Beta. You're a beta male. You're a beta male. Not an alpha male. Beta. What a shame. Mommy's boy. As a beta male. Beta. Not an alpha male. Beta male. Yes. Beta male. Beta. You're a beta male. You're a beta male. Not an alpha male. Beta. What a shame. Mommy's boy.